American Gangster, Machine Gun Kelly. George Kelly Barnes, born on July 17, 1900, and passing away on July 18, 1954, was an American gangster hailing from Memphis, Tennessee, who gained notoriety during the Prohibition era. Recognized by the alias Machine Gun Kelly, he earned this moniker due to his affinity for the Thompson submachine gun. His criminal legacy is primarily tied to the high-profile kidnapping of oil tycoon and entrepreneur Charles F. Urschel in July 1933. This infamous incident resulted in the extraction of a $200,000 ransom by Kelley and his gang. Notably, Urschel's meticulous collection and inadvertent leaving behind of substantial evidence played a pivotal role in aiding the subsequent FBI investigation. This investigative trail ultimately led to Kelley's apprehension in Memphis on September 26, 1933. In addition to the high-profile kidnapping, Kelley was involved in other criminal activities, including bootlegging and armed robbery. Kelley encountered his initial challenges when he entered Mississippi State University in 1917 with the intention of studying agriculture. Right from the start, he earned a reputation as a lackluster student, receiving his highest grade, a C+, for maintaining good physical hygiene. His academic journey was marred by frequent conflicts with the faculty, and a significant portion of his time was dedicated to offsetting the demerits he had accumulated. It was amid these academic struggles that Kelley crossed paths with a young woman named Geneva Ramsey. Swiftly captivated by Geneva, Kelley made a spontaneous choice to abandon his education and tie the knot with her. During the Prohibition era of the 1920s and 1930s, Kelley worked as a bootlegger for himself as well as a colleague. After a short time and several run-ins with the local Memphis police, he decided to leave town and head west with his girlfriend. To protect his family and to escape law enforcement officers, he changed his name to George R. Kelly. He continued to commit smaller crimes and bootlegging. He was arrested in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in 1928 for smuggling liquor onto a Native American reservation and sentenced to 3 years at Leavenworth Penitentiary, Kansas, beginning February 11, 1928. He was reportedly a model inmate and was released early. Shortly thereafter, Kelley married Kathryn Thorne, an experienced criminal who purchased Kelley's first machine gun and insisted despite his lack of interest in weapons that he performed target practice in the countryside. She also went to great lengths to familiarize his name within underground crime circles. According to Persons in Hiding, a 1938 book by FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, Kelley worked with Kathryn and Eddie Dahl in the kidnapping of a wealthy manufacturer in South Bend, Indiana, for a $50,000 ransom. Similar claims were made in several 1937 American Magazine articles co-authored by Hoover. While Hoover chose not to name the victim in either his book or magazine articles, local newspaper stories about Hoover's claims assumed that he was referring to the January 26, 1932 abduction of Howard Arthur Wolverton. Wolverton was released unharmed after less than 24 hours in captivity, and the crime was essentially forgotten in the following decades, but his kidnapping was reported widely at the time and proved to be historic, characterized by contemporary reporting as a turning point in America's growing kidnapping scourge. The New York Daily News called his abduction spectacular, asserted that for brazen audacity, it has no parallel, and suggested that such crimes represent a challenge to organized society. Wolverton's kidnapping revived consideration of the Lindbergh Law in Congress and spawned several nationally distributed newspaper projects that sought to take the full measure of the growing crime wave, in which described kidnapping as a threat to every American. Completion of these projects, including a 16-part series in the Daily News, were ready for publication within days of the March 1, 1932, kidnapping of Charles Lindbergh Jr., meaning that the infant's abduction was presented not as a single crime but as part of a growing national problem. In the summer of 1933, a notorious incident unfolded in Oklahoma City, involving Kelley and a cast of characters armed with machine guns, ransom notes, and a high-stakes game of negotiation. At the stroke of 11:15 p.m. on Saturday, July 22, 1933, Charles F. Urschel and his wife found themselves engrossed in a game of bridge with friends on the screened porch of their luxurious Oklahoma City residence. Little did they know that their evening of leisure would soon be shattered by the intrusion of two armed men, one wielding a machine gun and the other a pistol. Without hesitation, the intruders barged in, demanding to know which of the two men was Charles Urschel. Met with silence, they ominously declared, "Well, we will take both of them." After cautioning the women present against seeking help, the armed duo forcibly escorted Urschel and his friend Walter R. Jarrett to their awaiting Chevrolet sedan. The stage was set for a harrowing journey into the world of kidnapping and extortion. Following the abduction, in adherence to the Attorney General's public advice, Mrs. Urschel promptly dialed J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI. Special agents were dispatched to Oklahoma City, initiating a meticulous investigation that would become a hallmark of the Bureau's early efforts in combating organized crime. Jarrett, miraculously escaping his captors, provided crucial information about the kidnappers' route, setting the stage for a nationwide manhunt. Anonymous tips and leads flooded in from various sources, prompting a comprehensive follow-up by the FBI, despite the limited value of many of these leads. Days passed before the kidnappers made contact. On July 26, J.G. Catlett, a wealthy oil magnate and Urschel's friend, received a package through Western Union containing a letter from Urschel himself. In the package were instructions for Catlett to act as an intermediary, along with a demand for a $200,000 ransom. Accompanying the instructions was a typewritten note detailing the ransom payment. The kidnappers emphasized the need for genuine used Federal Reserve currency in $20 bills and warned against any attempts to mark the bills or deceive them. A chilling advertisement was to be placed in the local newspaper, signaling the beginning of a perilous negotiation process. The ransom payment unfolded as a carefully orchestrated dance. An envelope from Joplin, Missouri arrived at the Daily Oklahoman, outlining instructions for Kirkpatrick, a trusted associate of Catlett, who was tasked with delivering the ransom. The instructions detailed the exact denomination and type of bills, the mode of transportation, and the specifics of the rendezvous. Kirkpatrick, carrying $200,000 in used $20 bills in a light-colored leather bag, embarked on the journey to Kansas City on July 29, 1933. The kidnappers, wary of any trickery, emphasized the consequences for Urschel if the exchange went awry. This high-stakes operation marked a significant moment in the criminal negotiation playbook of the time. Urschel, enduring 9 days of captivity, was released exhausted but unharmed on July 31st. His detailed recollection of the events provided invaluable insights into the kidnappers' movements and activities. Blindfolded, transported between houses, and guarded by two men, Urschel's captivity included discussions with one kidnapper about their extensive criminal history, mentioning notorious figures like Bonnie and Clyde. The kidnappers, employing tactics to conceal their location, utilized an iron cot, handcuffs, and a chain during Urschel's confinement. Notably, Urschel observed the presence of barnyard animals, overheard regular planes passing overhead, and noted specific times for the flights, providing crucial clues for investigators. The investigation reached its climax when, on August 12, 1933, George "Machine Gun" Kelley and his accomplices were arrested in Memphis. The intricate details of the kidnapping and the subsequent negotiation became pivotal in unraveling the criminal network responsible. The arrest of the Kellys was overshadowed by the escape of 10 inmates, including all of the members of the future Dillinger Gang, from the penitentiary in Michigan City, Indiana, that same night. The trial was held at the Post Office Courthouse and Federal Office Building in Oklahoma City with Judge Edgar S. Vaught presiding. On October 12, 1933, George and Kathryn Kelly were convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. An investigation in Coleman, Texas, disclosed that the Kellys had been housed and protected by Cassie Earl Coleman and Will Casey, and that Coleman had assisted George Kelley in storing $73,250 of the Urschel ransom money on his ranch. This money was located by bureau agents in the early morning hours of September 27th in a cotton patch on Coleman's ranch. They were both indicted in Dallas, Texas, on October 4th, 1933, charged with harboring a fugitive and conspiracy, and on October 17, 1933, Coleman, after entering a plea of guilty, was sentenced to serve 1 year and 1 day, and Casey, after trial and conviction, was sentenced to serve 2 years in the United States Penitentiary at Leavenworth, Kansas. The abduction of Charles Urschel in July 1933 and the subsequent legal proceedings marked a historic chapter in American criminal justice. This pivotal event and its aftermath held significance on multiple fronts, shaping the course of federal criminal trials and law enforcement practices. First and foremost, the trials stemming from Urschel's kidnapping were groundbreaking as they constituted the initial instances in the United States where film cameras were permitted in federal criminal courtrooms. This marked a departure from established norms, introducing a visual dimension to legal proceedings that would later become commonplace but, at the time, represented a notable innovation in judicial transparency. Furthermore, the Urschel kidnapping trials held distinct historical weight as they were the inaugural cases prosecuted following the enactment of the Lindbergh Law. This legislation, named after the tragic kidnapping and murder of Charles Lindbergh Jr., made kidnapping a federal crime. The Urschel case thus became a pioneering example of the federal government's expanded jurisdiction and intervention in cases involving abduction, setting a precedent for subsequent prosecutions under this newly established federal mandate. The investigation and resolution of the Urschel kidnapping also hold the distinction of being the first major case successfully cracked by J. Edgar Hoover's Federal Bureau of Investigation. This marked a turning point in the agency's history, showcasing its capabilities and establishing its reputation as a formidable force in solving high-profile criminal cases. Moreover, the Urschel trials broke new ground in terms of logistical arrangements, representing the first instance where defendants were transported by airplane for prosecution. This innovative approach to transportation not only underscored the evolving capabilities of the aviation industry but also signaled a shift in the methods employed by law enforcement in managing and executing federal trials. The kidnapping of Charles F. Urschel and the subsequent legal proceedings were transformative in the annals of American criminal justice. From the introduction of film cameras in federal courtrooms to the implications of the Lindbergh Law, the Urschel case set precedents that influenced the future trajectory of federal criminal trials and law enforcement practices in the United States.
And with that, we have come to the end of our video. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and click that notification bell. This has been saying, see you next time.